Okay. I'm live. That was the start of my live thing, so Marn from the distance. What's wrong? So yeah, I moved this one up by half an hour because I am dead exhausted and I'm just like I want to get it over it. So it was supposed to initially start at 9:30. It is instead starting here at 9. This is a behind the scenes talk, so it's very similar to the Q&A. I figured I'd see if anybody had anything specific they wanted to talk about the lore, things like that. I had some stuff I was going to talk about, but I'm kind of dead. So I will probably just continue going through the list of questions I was going through in the Q&A, unless you guys actually have some questions. So, yeah. I want to thank everyone who has come out today so far to participate. Like I said, this is the last live stream. Last time you have to see me, hear me, listen to me for those who have joined. So you can see I am out of costume. I'm done. Like, I'm ready to relax. Had a very long day. I got up at like 8, and so I've pretty much been running since then, setting things up, and the usual. And we did have trick or treating here. I just put a candy basket outside. It looks like half the candy was gone, so that's good. I put hand sanitizer out with it, but yeah. I don't know. No, the hand sanitizer did not get stolen. That was a joke that we had. We're like, is somebody gonna steal it? Nobody did. But I don't want to really, go face to face with people with all the COVID and stuff going on. So, but yeah. So, I had some late starts on things just because of stuff. But I hope that didn't discourage you guys too much. All of the events that said they're still open, save for the ones like the scavenger hunt that did have a close, are going to be running until 11. So you have a chance to get your answers in. There are still some unanswered flash trivia you can use. You can still take the pop quiz. For the pop quiz, every right answer gets you a entry into the raffle. So into a raffle. I will be looking and figuring out how many raffle stuff and figuring out how many how many raffles I'm going to end up doing. Initially, I planned on doing one for like each event, but I haven't gotten a whole lot of people in it. So I mean, I'm going to have a lot of the same winners. So I'm probably going to do bigger prizes and less of them in exchange. So um if you guys marked yourself as going, that is also another raffle. All you have to do is mark yourself as going. So you have until 11 to mark yourself as going as well. It is, like I said, 9 my time, so that's 2 more hours to do that. It's all going to go live on the events thing for that. Let's see. So let's go through some more questions then from this list. I probably won't stay on here very long, like half an hour, unless I get a lot of people on asking questions. Because, like I said, I'm pretty much dead tired. I've been running on everything all day, so I'm kind of like to the limit where I'm just like, I just want to sit and not do anything for a bit. So I almost canceled this entirely. I just decided to do it half an hour earlier instead, so it'd be a little less stressful. Yeah. So if you do show up at the stream, because I can see I have one viewer, and you want to ask a question, please just drop it in the comments here, and I will answer it when I notice it. It will be pretty quick. But if I'm in the middle of answering a question, obviously I won't jump to it. But I will answer every question as I can. Okay, so all right, the first question I'll answer then is, I'm gonna skip some of these because some of these are kind of boring and it's supposed to be like really creative, but I don't know. Maybe I will just talk about the lore a little bit first. That's probably more interesting, and then I'll go back if I don't want to do anything more. So, for those of you guys who have actually read the books, you'll notice that I have obviously my own take on stuff. Plus, I am avoiding. While I have werewolves, I did not do any vampire, and Fae gets brought up a lot, but I actually don't have it. I mentioned earlier in the first Q&A that the Fae and vampires are not set or will not appear in the first 7 books. They might appear in a side story later, because I have a side story anthology I'm working on. That's where all these like stories of like the Halloween story that I read earlier and stuff will be going when they finally do get published. They will probably first be appearing at Patreon if they even appear anywhere else, or some may just appear directly in there. But I also have kicked around the concept, depending on how things go and how sales go and stuff, there may eventually be a sequel series. Because, this is the seven sins, but we also have the seven virtues. My cat just came by to flop on the floor next to me. He's not mad at me anymore. I let him get his costume out. My cat was also dressed up all day. But, yeah, so I'm kind of going to go over some of the lore in each book with the creatures that came up and kind of discuss it a little bit then and until somebody has a question or until I get bored of it. So we'll do that. So book 1 is Lust. Sorry. You would believe how much caffeine I've already had today too. But succubus is what we deal with there. Like I mentioned before, and for those of you guys who read it, I don't have it's not dirty in any way, shape, or form. I write violence. I don't write romance, and I don't write like sexual content. There's some language and violence, and that's what you get. More so the violence than anything. But in this world, succubuses or succubi, I guess, they do have some similarities to what you see like standard vampire like culture, I guess. With it's still different, but the whole concept of like a council and things like that are still there. So it does drive some semblance to what you've seen a lot of vampires and stuff. They do not get along with vampires though, so because while they feed on humans, it's in a different way. Specifically, they feed off of their energy, which is usually easiest access through like carnal stuff. So that does come up, but it's not like and I mean there are some energy feeding vampires, which was another thing. I looked at it and I was like, I'll just avoid vampires entirely and do different. That's why Boo Hag ended up being the 1 in 5, but I digress. Anyways, so specifically, they basically, I'm really dead, as you can see, but they each succubus has their own taste and stuff. Pretty is the one that you mostly get to meet. In general, succubuses don't stick to one person because it will drain them. But God, what was her real name? The other's the blonde succubus. It's been a while and I'm really tired. But she was in love with a human, so that was kind of a weird thing going on there. But yeah, they constantly have to switch partners. There are some rules laid out by the console, like things like I keep saying console instead of console. Council. There we go. Council. It's a console. It's Sega. Don't worry about it. But like they can't attack, drain a human to death. They can't go target anyone who's under 18. Basically, only adults can be targeted. They need to switch partners and stuff to avoid dangerously draining a human, and like they're not supposed to use their power or let anyone know or things like that. So generally succubi look like pretty much like models or like any really drop dead gorgeous or whatever aesthetic. They all have their own different aesthetics that they still rely on. Like Pretty and her little sister Ratty didn't look that much alike. Pretty has like dark red, almost like maroon hair. It is curly, and Ratty also had curly hair, but she had black hair. I believe they had different eye color too, but even their taste in what they went after was different. Like Pretty is, I don't want to quite say she's into older guys because that's not quite what I mean, but yeah, she likes the rich type, the businessmen, the executives, like the lonely guys like that. She also doesn't mind women. She doesn't care. Ratty's target is generally younger guys. Ratty's a lot younger though. So they feast on their energy, and that's what they eat to survive. They stay in, I guess, glamour of sorts normally, and so there's really pretty model like, or handsome or pretty depending model like figure. They're also limited to like one succubi per city, so you don't usually see a lot in there, or if it's a bigger city they might come to an agreement. But yeah, so Pretty is the only succubus that you really see in the area of Chicago and should be the only one, so that's why there was some trouble with Lust because there was more. But it doesn't really have one. A lot of succubus don't particularly stay in one place anyways. A lot of them will kind of go back to what do you call it? Like back to like their home base or whatever. Pretty's family is from Europe. She doesn't get along great with her family besides Ratty initially, so that's why she left and came to the US. Though so yeah, that's they have to like be really careful. So they can eat human food, but they don't need it. Pretty really, she's a little eccentric even for a succubus. That's kind of a big thing with her. She's kind of the black sheep of her family all over, but she's really weird for a person. She's even weirder for a supernatural creature. She's very interested in human culture and things like that. Not to like an obsessive, I want to study it point, but like she really likes the idea of the two worlds kind of combining and becoming one and not having these to be worried about things like that, but still, policing themselves and making sure no one gets hurt. She enjoys eating human food. She doesn't need to eat it at all. It's pretty much just useless for her, but she likes the taste of a lot of it, and it makes her. I don't know if I'd say it makes her feel human. She just enjoys it. So you see her. She eats a lot and likes to eat lots of fancy food and drink and things like that. So she's what you'd expect like an eccentric rich person to be in general, except for she's even more. They have the ability of like they can create fire, like fireballs and things like that. Pretty uses hers as that's one of her main weapons in attack. Oh, yeah. She also uses it for like lighting the area and stuff. And they don't have to have them like if they create a fireball. Sorry, I'm like, where's my hand? If they create a fireball, they can also use it like to it's like whoosh, I don't know. They can keep it. It doesn't have to be affixed to them. They can like send it. So think of if you've ever played like D&D or whatever, and like magic light or whatever the illumination spells that they tend to have in like dark caverns and stuff like that. It's the same kind of concept where it doesn't have to be like attached to them. It can like float in front of them, kind of thing. A ball of light, just a ball of fire. Not the best illumination because it is indeed fire, but it's sometimes easier than like holding a torch or something like that. Especially you don't want people to know they're coming. They can track energies and stuff to an extent. They can't always differentiate every energy, and it's easier for them to pick up on more powerful energy than weaker energy. It comes from the whole fact that if the energy is weaker than them, it's just kind of not worth notice. So even if they technically are noticing it, you don't pay attention to it. It's kind of like background noise you get used to, I guess would be the best way. Like I live right near a train track, and I am so used to the train that I don't normally think about the fact that I can hear a train track. Um, so when they are in their true like when they're in like battle mode, I guess there is a red like I call it refer to as attack too, but it's more of a sigil that appears like on their chest. Pretty's is kind of based on the shape of a heart with like a rib cage inside. It's like so reversal of the two. Guys, stop it! My cats are attacking each other. So it glows red. It's not a permanent fixture. It's only when she's using her powers to an extreme that you see it. They also can get like these leathery wings out. So what you'd think of like a standard demon having, or even like more what you've heard some vampires have them and stuff too. But yeah, things like that. They do have some healing. If they get injured and stuff, they heal faster than a human, but it also comes down they're using a lot of energy with that. So it comes down to more like what you see in a lot of like this is why a succubus would have to feed it. If you drain a lot of energy, you as a person drain a lot of energy, you usually have to eat more, take in more calories, drink more water. It's the same kind of concept for some. If they use too much power, they got to drink more. They always need a certain amount anyways, but things like that. I mean, succubus lore is pretty straightforward otherwise. I didn't really I say I didn't like tweak things. This is not quite true. It's just I didn't it's not the focus. I wanted with her I wanted a specific type of character, and she just fit the bill. And I was looking for things that weren't quite as average, I guess. Actually, the whole concept of Archive of Sinners originally came from a dream I had. And in the dream, it was a psychic, detective, a werewolf, and a succubus, which is why those are most of the main cast after a while. I started it a little differently, obviously, and things like that, but that was kind of like the starting point. I like the concept, and I was like, let's play with this, see where it goes. All right, book two, agreed, was pretty simple, just a ghost in a mirror. No real lore there. The whole concept of ghosts and spirits and stuff is everyone handles it different. Every culture, everything like that. I can't say why I chose a mirror at all. There's no real reason. There really isn't. I just wanted something physical, I guess, that could be passed around, and I thought the concept of a mirror would do it. Hello. So yeah, that's what I went with, is a mirror for that one, as far as the channel, I guess, or whatever. And as for those who have actually read it, she can hop through like the mirrors a lot, so it's kind of like a moving point. The ghost hunting element of it was all stuff I studied based on, talking to people I know who did ghost hunting. I hadn't had a chance to do it myself prior to that. It wasn't until later, and even then, it wasn't anywhere extreme or something. It's the one, like I said before, that it inspired the 2016 Halloween story. So there's that. Then yeah, that there isn't a whole lot of lore, like new or fancy lore into. It's just general stuff. Book 3 is the werewolves. That's gluttony, so that's where the werewolves come in. The lore in that one, once again, is werewolves. My werewolves aren't too different than a lot of the standard cut werewolves. They aren't weak to silver. It's just they're basically just giant wolves, is what they are. When they transform, they go from human to wolf. It's not like they're necessarily a special thing. They're just a wolf now, a really big, powerful wolf. They do have, and even in their human form, have special healing, like enhanced healing out powers, uh, enhanced strength, really good hearing, good scent tracking, and even like better eyesight, especially in the dark and stuff, than you would see a lot of humans have. And in their wolf form, it's even more so. They also can transform whenever. It's not limited to like night or to the moon or anything. They are stronger when there's a full moon, and they are weaker when there is a new moon, but they can still, and that scale in between affects their strength and stuff, but they can still transform whenever. Like, they transform in daylight and everything. If you guys have read any of Archive of Sinners, you'll notice like Ken transforms at really weird times sometimes, but that's just it. There's nothing really stopping it. Werewolves, when they first get power, since there aren't a lot of true born werewolves, where the succubus is like, you can't become a succubus, you're either born or you're not. Werewolves are generally turned, which is what Ken is. He is turned. He is not born a werewolf. He's not turned until, he's in college, so he's in his 20s, like 19, 20 range. And he doesn't know how to handle the power at first, so that's a lot of what they're dealing with the gluttony at first. It's basic, like, suddenly overfilling a glass, and you do have to figure out, how do I stop this, how do I calm it, and things like that. And so that was a big part of that. But yeah, I didn't go really fancy with their lore. I just wanted them to be, wolves. Werewolves. I don't like a lot of the werewolf tropes. I don't like a lot of lycanthropy books and things like that. A lot of them, like the whole, I did use the term alpha, but I wasn't going like alpha omega, like mating type stuff. Literally, it's just alpha of a pack, like you would see in an actual wolf. I literally looked at them a lot as an actual wolf, as like actual real wolves, despite the fact that they are werewolves. So that's where a lot of like their lore comes in and things like that. Nothing really fancy or anything again. Okay. Book 4 is witches and witchcraft. So a big focus on that. It's witchcraft based on more modern day witchcraft. So you're dealing with, like, I guess when you go to like curio shops and stuff, that kind of thing, where you'd see there are still things around and stuff like that are gotten from olden days and stuff, but it's people would call it pagan and stuff, but it's literally like that kind of it's more almost like a druid type thing, where they're really in touch with nature and things like that. They draw their power, so like every supernatural creature draws their powers from different places. Most supernatural creatures basically are drawing their powers from another plane, and that's actually very similar to a human psychic does the same, where they're not drawing it from, or they're drawing it from somewhere else. And so it's a kind of a unique thing because of that. But specifically, witches are drawing it from the earth, like legit the ley lines in the earth and things like that. So that's a big part of that. Their familiars are created by kind of like summoning a creature from from another plane, using that power and then solidifying that. It's like the best way to describe it. Missy in book 4 really does a good job, like outright explaining it when she talks about it too. vary in the others. And I'm honestly too tired to remember exactly what she said, but that's the general concept behind it. So, they are drawing from the ley lines as a replenishable source. It's kind of like, it'd be like taking water out of the ocean, as long as you're not like emptying it all out at the same time. And even then eventually stuff comes back. It's just, the more you take, the harder it is to fill it first. But when you're talking, there's witches and there's a lot of them, but they're not taking, there's no way a human could handle like thousands and thousands of gallons of water like in them kind of concept. So they're not taking, and even the strongest witch would not be taking a whole lot. They do follow rules of a council. Their council's a little different. They have kind of like the overseeing heads, and then they have people in charge of other categories within it. I don't even remember what they're called, but you basically have, like, I guess the fighters or whatever. It's kind of the ones, like, what is it? Watcher is one of them, I think. I can't remember what the other one is. Like I said, I'm so dead. So what happens when you do all day events? But Azilla is one, so you do meet one in there. And you meet some the other ones. But yeah, so they kind of keep an eye on things, and they have, like, when things get really intense, they have like their guard that they send in, which is what Azilla is, to basically, witches don't generally just arrest, they usually maim or kill. So if you mess up in witchcraft and are breaking a lot of witchcraft rules, because witchcraft can get so dangerous, you generally are just put down by the council. Things like dealing with demons and stuff is forbidden, and so that's a big thing that happens, in 4. Certain spell books and stuff are watched by only trusted witches and stuff, and you have to like earn that right, so that's also a thing. Generally familiars can't act too much on their own. They are tied to their witch and their powers. So you, once again, it's like if a familiar loses a witch, generally they would just return. The exception would be as if they're left behind with a task or something that they have to fulfill, which is what happens with Missy. Familiars can draw energy from the ley lines to an extent, but they are kind of missing that, like, I guess it would be like trying to scoop up water with your hands. They're missing like that bucket that would help them keep it in there, so they don't get as much by their own. The witch would act as the bucket that would kind of deliver it to them. And that was like a big thing that happens with that too, when Missy loses, when Missy is a witch, familiar without a witch. So she was passed on, but she literally can't do a lot of the same stuff she would have been able to. Witches familiars are generally can do some of the same thing as far as like magic and stuff as their the witches can. So without that, that's kind of what happens. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else with the witch lore that was really interesting. I guess one of the differences I went with that was also familiars can take on any form they want. They don't have to be like cats or anything like that. They generally take on the form of their master's preferred things. So, like, for instance, there's literally one familiar is an iguana. Whatever animal or thing like that is preferred. I think one of them parades around as like a young boy too. So it's because the warlock, it's a male, has a son, and so the two get along. And basically he has a second son, like a slightly older brother or whatever, for the kid's knowledge, because the kid's young. And then book 5 was the Boo Hag. Boo Hags are from North Carolina, actually. It's a really weird choice of it, but I wanted something that drained energy and wanted something a little unique. I also wanted some tie into voodoo, so I brought in kind of a different feel for that book with the creature we were looking at. Boo Hags basically eat dreams kind of thing and energy through people sleeping. They cause nightmares and use that like fear in their dreams or whatever to feed off until they're done with the person. In some ways they have some similarities to vampires, especially like the Chinese vampires who only feast on energy. They can't be like out in the sunlight, so they have to like hide, which is where you get like, they're similar to skinwalkers in that way, because they basically skin their guys and wear their meat suits around until they rot and then find a new target. They generally don't like leave their area, but obviously it's in Chicago, so there's a reason for that. You have to read it and find it draws on a lot of lore like that and things like that. I just thought it was kind of cool to be able to do something like little abnormal. Everything I have in general in mind for especially like the short stories and stuff. I wanted to play around with stuff that you don't really see in things, and I'm a big fan of like mythology and things like that. So I'm like I love folklore, and I'm like braining. I'm braining. I can't even English anymore. Brain deading. That's not a word either. All right. Does anyone have any questions now that I've kind of like babbled for a short time? I'll see if you have one, feel free to write in the comments. I'm gonna go look and see if there is any in this list that sound interesting. A lot of these they're interesting, but I don't know. Guess I can go with this one. How many unpublished and half-finished books do you have? Generally, if I'm writing a story, I'm writing it to finish it at some point. Currently, right now, actively working on it. I still have the short story for this because, like I said, I wasn't finished. I didn't actually make it through all the on the live reading, and I wouldn't have even if I went the extra like 15 minutes on it. But like, yeah, no, it was just like that was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be for that length of time. And I'm also after all this talking, I'm kind of like about to like lose my voice and stuff. But currently, I have Archive of Sinners, the book 6, which is Envy. I have that one, the first few chapters done. I have Hanif, which is the never supposed to be sequel to Altair, has the first few chapters done. And that is my current goal, so that one will be my NaNoWriMo project starting tomorrow, because it's November tomorrow. And then I have Dragon Pillars, Shadow, and Light. I was like, I almost said Shadow and Earth. Like, those don't go together. Shadow and Light also has like the first few chapters, so they each have them because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to go with next initially, so I started writing them and would like just do like a chapter and switch between them, which was a little weird and a little difficult. I generally like to stick to one story at a time, but I was trying to figure out which one I had the most like felt like writing most, and then I ended up polling people and talking to people online, and people were just like, "When are we getting Hannah?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I teased the sequel last year. I'll actually write it now." And then volume 13 of Zoskia, so I have graphic novels as well, is basically about ready to be sent off to the printers at this point. As far as interior stuff, I still have a little leftover stuff to do, but not much. So I'm finally happy that I've made enough progress on that to get there. So that book will probably actually be out next month. Next month is tomorrow, huh? But yeah, it'll probably be out in November sometime, probably about mid-November. I also have Kapatoyeba has it all written script out. I also have a anthology manga that was all scripted out. I have some short stories that are so I'm doing when I did a poll on Patreon to see what people wanted. I had a couple ideas for light novels. I should say 3, so it's not a couple, it's a few or several, whatever. And I let people vote on Patreon and other ones to see what people's interest would be. Well, the one that won was a fantasy story. It was originally supposed to be a graphic novel, but I just was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to drawing it. And there's so many characters and so much that happens in it. I feel like writing is the better option. And with the light novel angle, I can still get a little art in it too. So that's kind of where I'm going with that one. And so, but with that, the 2 other stories, the Meitante Gaijin-chan, which is about a foreign exchange student who kind of gets involved with a lot of like, it's kind of like a cute, goofy, like I guess feel good. Probably would be considered like a young, like a YA book where it's a high schooler who gets involved. She wants to become a detective writer, like a mystery writer, and goes over to Japan as a foreign exchange student and ends up getting involved in like a lot of cases and things like that and does some kooky stuff. And then There's also I'm calling it Akira. I don't actually have a name for it, but it was a zombie apocalypse story. I specifically kind of took a break on writing that one because it's too close to home right now. I started writing it a few years back, and like I started drafting it, I guess I should say, because I didn't even write it. I just had like the outline and things I wanted to happen. It's a story I've been kicking around for a while. And I did actually start writing it a couple years back too. So I have the first draft, which I'm pretty much scrapped, and then I started a second draft more recently. But yeah, it's basically like it started with the government in the U.S. kind of going to crapshoot, the CDC, like a lot of officials getting disbanded, the CDC losing power, then like a pandemic hits and kills off a bunch of people, and then other viruses come in and start mutating, and then eventually zombie apocalypse, and most of the population is gone, and people are trying to figure out what's going on. It falls around the character Akira, who starts out in a lab where his parents were some of the people studying or trying to make a vaccine for it, and they ended up getting somebody got infected and everyone ended up dying, and he got bit and realized he was like, well, he starts recording it, I'm bit, I'm gonna record it and take because he even though he's been in there, and he's like 17 at the beginning of the story. He's been in there for a long time and has, well, he's not been outside, he's been in there his entire life basically. He has been around scientists and doctors and stuff, so he understands a lot of it and knows how to do it. So he's basically continuing the test because his goal is to be able to work and get this data to people so they can create something before he turns, or at least leave something behind. Well, he doesn't actually end up turning. So it's one of those kind of typical in some ways. It's another one that was a silly dream, but so like that one's an unfinished one too. I had a story about a girl who it was a girl in dragonflies. It was a concept I came up with when I was in elementary school. I started writing it for a short story contest, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't know if I can make the story short, so I don't know if I'll ever do anything with that one either. Other than that, I don't really have a lot of unfinished things that I'd ever want to go back to or even do stuff with. I probably have some stuff from like back when I was in middle school that I might go back and touch eventually and rewrite entirely, but that's about it. All right, so I've been on for like half an hour. If nobody has any questions, I think I'll probably end it there. Just because, like I said, I've had a long, long, long day. I'm really just kind of want to not be like on anymore. I just want to like sit and just relax for a bit, maybe play a dumb video game or something. So, but everyone who showed up and commented, so I know you're here because otherwise you can't track viewers or anything on Twitch. I'm using Twitch specifically because it is the easiest way to stream. I found I don't like Facebook for streaming. It's weird. I tried to do it, but one of the last times I did an event for Wednesday's Kias had its like anniversary thing, one of the first things, and I was like, oh, it was horrible. I played games or whatever for that one. I was like, I don't want to do it. So this is why Twitch is a little more stable. Plus, I will be live streaming on Twitch, on a regular schedule starting tomorrow. October was weird. I was streaming every day because of Ink October, but I'm fine. I'm done with that, and October is over, so it's like, yeah. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. Like I was gonna say something, but train of thought is gone. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Enjoyed any of the stuff. I'm going to be archiving all these videos and posting them onto my YouTube channel later. I don't know if I'll get them up tonight. Probably won't be till tomorrow, but it's not that big of a thing. So you can check back on all the things you missed, including like the live reading and stuff. The short story from the live reading will be up on my Patreon, which is Kojika. In the next few days. It's a paid thing, so you'll only be able to see it as a paid Patreon, but it will be available to all the tiers, including the $3 tier. And then all of the what was I gonna say? All of the ebooks right now on Amazon, which you can find by looking at the series title or my author name, are 99 cents until November 3rd. So that includes Lust, Greed, Gluttony, Wrath, and Sloth. So all 5 of them are up on sale for 99 cents each. I appreciate if you have read it or intend to read it. I'd love to hear what you have to think. So if you could leave me a review, that'd be great. Otherwise than that, have a good night. Have a happy rest of Halloween, and thank you all for coming out and for taking part in this event. Everything else will still be kind of going until 11. So if you haven't marked yourself in the event as going yet, do so. You get an entry to a raffle. If you haven't, there's a pop quiz that's still going. There's some flash trivia that hasn't been answered. There's a lot of things you can still do to get some more entries. Once everything finalizes, I'll actually announce how many drawings I'm going to do, because I just want to see how many entries I have for each. Instead, I was going to make them separately, but some of them don't have enough, so they'll end up getting combined. Other than that, have a good night.